Slightly different topic now. We talked about the father's role at conception, but I think it would be great to hear a little bit more about what role the father can play during pregnancy. I think fathers are a lot more involved these days. I see it myself with Nick. We definitely split the childcare 50-50 and everything to do with the children 50-50, but it would be great to know that what role can the fathers play during pregnancy rather than once the child is born?
One thing which is very, very important during pregnancy, which affects not only the child, but their future relationship also. A father must not think, or the husband should not think that, okay, she's pregnant, there are certain things only the woman will understand, and the woman in the house or your woman friends will be able to help the woman. Certain emotion things, certain cravings, certain emotional swings also that takes place, which pretty much the men may not understand, but the men must not shun it, but try to understand that during these pregnancies, the women go through certain stages. Yes, there were times also that not that men did not want to get involved, but because probably they become awkward or they do not know how to respond, or they did not have the knowledge, or maybe they did not even have the time when probably they had to be in the field quite a lot. So naturally, their involvement became less and less in pregnancy. But we can see from olden times that the men were very much involved during the pregnancy. And that is the time where even your love is intensifying, because you share a common life, a common love that is going to manifest. So it is not that the father is not interested. In fact, he is more sensitive, he's more loving, he's more caring, more affectionate. And they should be. If they are not, they should be. And the more the woman feels at that time secure that he is there for her, he's affectionate to her, because if she makes those emotions at that time that he's not there for me, he will not be there when I'm delivering. Even if she says, I know you have to work, and she's understanding that, you go and work, but the husband must realize that at that moment, her emotions, I wouldn't say she's very vulnerable to those emotions, but they are very powerful emotions. And during those powerful emotions time, if she feels that you were not there when she was in pain or when she needed you. Now, she may understand, but emotions don't have logic. And sometimes when understanding is also lacking, and the woman starts feeling that you are not there when you needed her the most. Because I know many men will be listening to this. That is where the mother must feel secure. The mother must feel that you are there to feel her pain, even though you may not understand, though you know that many men go through sympathetic pain so elaborately sometimes. But if they are there for them, they are there for the wife. Today, of course, I hear also that husbands are there even during the delivery times. Earlier, probably because men could not take that pain, or the woman knew better, these systems were created where only women would be there during the pregnancy, and also for other reasons of modesty, etc., whatever could have been the reason. Not that the men were not involved, But slowly, slowly, probably that process started where the men were not supposed to be involved, and then they stopped getting involved. So yes, as much as the husband, the to-be father, is involved in that pregnancy, not imposing, but involved, be there to bring joy, be affectionate to the wife. In fact, when the husband is joining her in her spiritual practices, reading out to her, because she'll find difficulty reading, sitting, together watching good positive programs, or even spiritual discourses, or watching the epics. All this definitely helps the mother to feel the confidence that together we will be nurturing. And there is where the child's genetic bond will be there with the father. And even the initial bond will be there with the father before conception. But during pregnancy, if the father is involved in the pregnancy, then that stage of development in the pregnancy, where even the father's vibrations, the father's emotions affect the mother positively, reaches the child, and the child is born feeling very secure, knowing that my father is there. He was there for my mother. Yeah? So all these things do affect, and therefore, dads, you must be involved. And during that period, culturally, as you know, in India, even the in-laws will insist their sons, whom normally sometimes they pamper, that they should be nice to their wives. So all the to-be mothers, that's the time, enjoy all their affection, even sometimes their pampering, and don't stop them. Let them do it. It helps the child.
That's a really lovely way for dads to be involved, and I've heard a lot of friends say that the father feels left out sometimes during pregnancy, so it's really nice to hear what role they can play during this very special time. Swamiji, following on from that, a lot of women feel quite isolated after birth. During pregnancy, you have a huge amount of support from medical professionals and from friends and family, and suddenly after birth you're alone at home with a small child who's entirely dependent on you. At the moment especially, it's really difficult to see friends and family, and we're often living in much smaller family units, and this increases the risk potentially of postnatal depression. It's something that a lot of women suffer with after the birth of the child. So what advice does Swamiji have for this period following the birth of the child and the risk of postnatal depression?
See, by pampering, I don't mean spoiling someone. There's a difference between that. But yes, getting all the affection, getting all the attention, getting all things done for them, because of at that moment, especially towards the end of pregnancies, she will have her own challenges and difficulties in doing certain things. And some of them, it won't be all, and postnatal depression, that many psychologists will point out could be for many different reasons, also because of hormonal changes that takes place is there. But yes, that sudden feeling of now being overwhelmed with responsibility, and therefore it is very important that during such times, as those who have already been mothers know, and that's how it used to be in the house, the sister-in-laws, the mother-in-law, mother, and all would join together, so that would take away that strain of sleepless nights, the child crying, not knowing what is happening, especially during the first child birth. All these things, it is very important to have the community. But what happens is that today fathers have to play a very crucial role in helping, because we have become unit families, and that support is not available to many of the mothers. And in a way, if we do not have very close relatives, because people isolate themselves from families because of the emotional drama that gets created, and then of course grievances, etc. But still, as a community, and I've seen that in certain places, that the neighbors come to support, the friends come to support, and during that time, please do take that support. But if you are only a couple, then yes, the responsibility of the father and the forbearance also of the husband must be increased. And remember that even he goes through suddenly, the feeling that I don't know what to do. Why is she reacting to me like this? No, it is our child, and I don't know what to do, or I've got now work to do. All these things, even the father and mother both go through. So it's nice, and that's why they say that the girl must deliver in her in-laws' house, or the mother's house. And that's the time even the young mothers should in a way surrender and let the grandparents and all, if they are available, to look after their children. Sometimes we go on the internet and find out too many things and get so attached that no, you don't know what to do, etc. And then finally you have to take the complete responsibility. And that's when, yes, you might feel there's so much to do, and you suddenly start feeling that you're losing affection. The quarrels between the husband and wife start increasing, sleepless nights, again mood swings between the both of you. All this begins to happen. Therefore, that's why society had created certain norms. Society had created certain support systems. The family unit was bigger and more accommodating. The village was one big family. This is how we must not break ourselves and isolate ourselves. I have seen now amongst many of you, and especially as we grow, we create our friends groups, etc. And particularly those of you who are in our Bal Vihar, in our Yuva Kendra, and have created a support system with your friends from the Chinmaya mission. Even now I hear that in certain places, and I'm sure you must have also experienced, that when the couple are going through, because they are alone, and even maybe grandparents are not there for the child, or whatever difficulties, problems may be there in that, immediately I have seen some of the little older parents have given that support to the younger ones, even moved into their house for some days, or made them move in their house. Recently I heard about it. These are beautiful systems if we can create in the community that we live amongst our friends. And since they had gone through maybe those difficult times, they understand and they give that support. And even if it's sometimes just for a week or two or a month, it becomes very helpful during the initial pregnancy, or even have the grandparents come and live in the house. Where it is not possible, then the two of you have to understand and help each other out as much as possible.
Great, thank you, Swamiji. A slightly different topic now. We are often told that we should think as if we are carrying God in the womb when we are pregnant, but I think there's so much else to think about, and this is often something that is hard to conceptualize for many people. Does Swamiji have any advice for women who can't quite get to the point of accepting or kind of can't quite get to the thought of I am carrying God in the womb.
See, this is possible only if you have got knowledge and culturally brought up with this idea that the life-giving force, or actually everything, comes from that infinite cause of the universe in you as well as the child. So, until and unless you have that cultural upbringing and that knowledge, there will be conflict in your mind. But what is important is, which you can easily cultivate, that I am carrying the gift of God in my womb. I am carrying the child of God in my womb. I am carrying the devotee of the Lord in my womb. These attitudes I think you can cultivate.
That's definitely easier for people to focus on, so thank you for that. I think it would be great to talk about some of the difficulties that women face in pregnancy. Sometimes you're told that the baby's health is at risk or the mother's health is at risk during the pregnancy. Sometimes people have suffered from miscarriages, and this leads to stress and anxiety during the pregnancy itself. There are often things that can make couples anxious during this time, and there is often a fear of the unknown during these 9 months. How can couples cope with this anxiety and the stress that comes during pregnancy?
See, that's why, couples, even before pregnancies, their health was very important. Yet, each one has a certain body type, each one has got their own physical challenges from the past, they have their own genetic abilities, or they're differently able. So many things are there, internal issues are there. So, definitely, during the pregnancies, there is so much uncertainties. But like anything in life, pregnancy is the most effective, the most magnificent part of creation. And in creation, it is to propagate and the growth of creation or growth of beings in creation. Therefore, really speaking, nature has made it very safe. But because of very often lack of knowledge, etc., or right nurturing, things can go wrong during pregnancy. And again, nobody should blame anybody for it, learn from it. Things can go wrong, and yet it is also, today itself, I was just passing one of our cow sheds, and a cow had delivered a calf, and I saw all the cow herds and maybe even the vet there trying to lift the cow, and I tried to see what was happening, and they said that the cow has delivered a calf, but she's having her difficulties standing up, and it's important that she's made to stand up. So during pregnancy and after pregnancies, there can be such condition. But rather than fearing it, because what you keep on thinking, affirming, very often you create those hormones, you create those bodily conditions of stiffness, tightness, etc. Even say the simple thing that most people fear the pain of delivery, and as only you mothers can understand how painful some of the pregnancies can be. But that fear of pregnancy is actually also tightening your muscles, etc., that the pregnancy becomes painful. But in all the practices, such as the yoga practices, etc., and even the cultural practices, and even in the household work that women used to do, not just sitting behind the desk, because today that's the role many have to play. And whether it's a man's body or a woman's body gets very restricted. But squatting, and therefore today in yoga asanas, many women are doing it so that they get an easy delivery, natural easy delivery, not so painful. So prepare, it's important to prepare yourself for it. Still there could be uncertainties, and as you mentioned that miscarriages can take place. In rare condition it also affects the mother, but a lot of this may not happen naturally, but can happen due to some mistakes that happen or because of lack of knowledge. Therefore, surrounded by people who know, taking guidance from experts like the doctors, etc., you can at least prevent to a great extent those difficulties or the cause of certain fears in pregnancy. And yet, things might happen. But that should not make you think that every pregnancy will be like that. Very often I have heard people, and of course you also came to me to talk about it, and now you're also openly talking about it. But doesn't mean that the first pregnancy was difficult, the second pregnancy is going to be difficult. But if we psych ourselves into it, then even if it is not going to be difficult, the fear of it causes so much anxiety that it causes other difficulties, even though the pain may not be so much. But as I said, your thoughts go to your children also. So therefore, in nature, just like any action you do for your success, be confident, go through it. Whatever challenges, if they come, face it with expertise from doctors, etc., or from those who know, parents, grandparents, midwives who know about these things, or even mature friends who have gone through pregnancy and have learned from it. Learn from them, but do not fear it. And do not even keep on telling the younger ones of these fears, because sometimes they do not have these fears, they cultivate these fears. And therefore, as I would say, the trends that are there, that people keep on hearing, that the younger or the first time mothers go through so much anxieties. Now, there is certain anxiety, you're going for the first time, anything you do for the first time, there is certain anxiety, and for the second time, built up from your first experience. But just as we say, for every endeavor, give up, learn from the past, correct what you can correct, but have no fears and anxieties, fears and regrets from the past. In the present, focus your mind in how best you can nurture yourself and the child within you. And during the moments of delivery, which is of course a very crucial way, but now you have got expert, you can be in hospitals, or even if you do at home, you have experts coming and helping you. Otherwise, in nature, it's a natural process. It should happen naturally. So don't fear it, but when you have these anxieties, definitely seek help. But do not keep on holding to the past. Coming to what you said about miscarriage and anxieties, see, in nature also, nature is mother, it nurtures you. If probably the fetus has developed some difficulty in it for growing, nature is just protecting you and the child that is going to come through you. The child is going to come, but in a healthier body. So, mothers, particularly when they've had miscarriages, it is sometimes nature's way to train the body. There are different reasons for it, but it's a way to train the body, to cleanse the body, to get the right, just like sometimes you get a plant, but the plant is not, the seed is not healthy. It sprouts. You actually wait for the time for it to grow. And you probably, about a month, you wait for it to sprout, but then it just suddenly shrivels off. Therefore, nature nurtures the healthy seeds, etc. Sometimes, of course, some incident happens, like maybe an accident, or maybe also the mother doesn't know. Certain things can happen, and there are a number of reasons for it. But have a greater vision of life, have greater faith in Mother Nature. There are people, of course, who get repeated, miscarriages. Please take expert guidance, medical assistance if required. But anxiety, over-anxiety, natural anxiety is always there in any endeavor. But over-anxiety spoils the situation, increases the chances of either the defects or miscarriages or complications in pregnancy. So as much as possible, have confidence that nature is bringing forth the greatest wonder as you experience when the child comes up. Is creating the most greatest wonder, is creating life within you, and therefore is nurturing you more than even you can imagine. So even if your physical mother-in-law, sister-in-law is nurturing you, or your sister, your mother is nurturing you, or even your husband is nurturing you, imagine what Mother Nature is doing for you, unseen. And with that faith, confidently go through your pregnancy. And this over-anxiety, certain anxiety is bound to be there that creates a sense of well-being, protectiveness that you may have towards yourself, towards your child. Even the people around you are constantly telling you, don't rush down steps, or you will fall, you can't have a fall. All that is just loving anxiety. But that over-imaginative anxiety, drop it. And if you can't drop it, take assistance. But have faith, have knowledge, have devotion in your heart. And a lot of these anxieties, which very often become the cause of those difficulties, illnesses, will be kept aside.
Thank you, Swamiji. And from a personal point of view, I definitely saw the impact of that. There was a lot of anxiety surrounding my first pregnancy, and it took me 3 days to give birth in a hospital setting for the first pregnancy, whereas for the second, where I was much calmer and much more relaxed, it took me 5 hours at home in a very lovely, calm manner. And I do think what Swamiji said about trusting Mother Nature and having faith and devotion, all of these things had an impact on my 2 pregnancies, and I could clearly see the difference between a very anxious pregnancy and a pregnancy where I was much more relaxed and trusted the process, trusted Mother Nature, and had that faith and devotion. This is something we went through, and we spoke to Swamiji a lot at the time. We had 5 years of trying to have children, and now we have a very boisterous toddler and a newborn at home, but it still feels miraculous to us at times. But I know during those 5 years there were some really difficult times and some really difficult things to process. Whether it be the miscarriages or the process of IVF, or there was a lot to deal with. And I know that a lot of couples now going through that find it difficult to talk to people about what's happening. They feel that it should be a very private issue. What advice can Swamiji give to couples who are going through this at the moment?
Please understand, and I would say that to all couples, that there's nothing to be ashamed if you can't conceive. Most of the time, it is the over anxiety to conceive that conception does not happen. Knowing many of you and with the fatherly love that I have had for you all, I could say so confidently that you are going to conceive. There are times, of course, there are certain medical issues there are certain issues that will require medical intervention, but don't be over anxious. Unless something has happened, an accident or an illness or something like that, you can't conceive. First of all, also, that today marriages are happening late, conception is happening late, so couples are a little older. And in nature, we have to first understand that nature has certain age, certain time of, fertility, all these things. So, somehow or the other, we think that the world is going to revolve around me. So there is time for each thing. Still, it is not that later on in your life you cannot conceive, but just in some cases, it becomes a slow process or a long drawn process. And if medically you seem to be both fit, one should not have anxiety. And very often, as you seen in your case also, and since you have expressed your case, and it will be very good so that parents hear that this is not some philosophical or just some mystical or that they are the left out ones, that they need to be cautious in what they tell people. And maybe there were times, of course, people used to condemn them or they used to feel shy about these things. Nothing. It is sometimes just your fears and anxieties that you don't conceive. And in olden times, I used to watch this, I used to hear from our parents, grandparents, or we used to hear in the neighborhood that someone was not having a child for so long. At that time, we didn't know medically, maybe they had also medically been to the doctors. And even there were times when the doctor said that you cannot conceive. And they either nurtured their neighbors' children, and it happened in our neighborhood. A family, young married couple, healthy, but for about 13, 14 years, did not conceive. We were older children, so probably she did not feel that sense of motherhood, but when the other neighbor had her children, and in India, neighbors are like family. So for us also, we had a sister whom we did not have, a sibling, and she started nurturing one of the child as her own child. She didn't even adopt. She's just nurturing as a child, and as though miraculously she conceived. From that, that's why many of the young people who come to me, I tell them, give up that anxiety. It will happen in time. If medically, and if there is some medical issue, please take a treatment, etc. There's nothing to be shy about it. There were olden times, there used to be this taboo, is who is fertile and who is not fertile, and blame each other for it. There's nothing to blame each other for it. No? Together, it can be worked. And today there is also medical intervention by which it is possible, even if there are some challenges or difficulties. However, this is not something that you should hide. Even if there is an issue of infertility, sometimes medically it can be worked about. But from what we have seen, even if there was medically pointed out infertility and they took all that, medications and all that, I have seen finally when we have been able to give them that confidence, that faith, acceptance, and they are calm. Of course, there are things like parents' blessings, guru's blessings, these are there. But what it does is that when such a couple's mind is calm, peaceful, positive, because if the mind also, the mother or the father keeps on thinking that it's not possible, it becomes difficult, it becomes challenging. Even those who could not with medical intervention get a child, suddenly conceive naturally. So, build that atmosphere of love, faith, devotion, confidence, and most of all, acceptance. That if it's just not possible, you still have family, children around you that you can love and feel the sense of motherhood and fatherhood. And surprisingly, mind and body is connected. It's very often seen that those who could not conceive adopted a child, or as I said, nurtured a child, and they conceived. Where did the fertility suddenly come from? Yeah? So, we do not know the power of the mind over this body. Nature's wonder. So, don't ever worry about it. But have acceptance that even if you do not have your own child, nature wants you to do something a lot more for the many children who are there in this world.
Thank you, Swamiji. I think that will provide a lot of reassurance to people who are going through this at the moment. I know that it definitely had an impact on us, being able to keep calm, and especially the point about acceptance. For us, that was hugely beneficial and important during the IVF process, and I do believe that had a positive impact on the process itself for us. It helped us to get to where we are now, and hopefully it will have that same impact and help others who are in the same position that we were in a few years ago. So thank you, Swamiji. I hope that everything we've outlined here helps others who are on the journey as well.
My all good wishes to all the young parents, parents to be, and those who want to be parents. Always think that you have to bring into this world not just a population, but noble children who will be positive contributors to society and who will live a life bringing not only joy, happiness, peace, and prosperity, and building upon the name and reputation of your family, but also bringing positivity to the world, a supraja. And in that way, you assist or become instrument rather than assist for Lord's creation. I wish you all the best, all the divinity in your life, happiness, joy, and the pleasure of having the different stages of growth of children in your life, but with love and not clinging attachment. Wish you all blessings and all good wishes. Hari Om.